Joining me now, Valerie Jarrett, former senior advisor to President Barack Obama. She joins me today in her personal capacity. Valerie, thank you very much for coming to the Saturday show. So you have been, I'm assuming, were a part of the vice presidential picking process back in 2008. That's what's happening apparently right now at the vice president's residence. If there's any way you could bring us behind the scenes, what might be happening in those meetings between Vice President Kamala Harris and the men who want to be her running mate?
Well, good evening, Jonathan. First of all, this is the one decision she gets to make totally on her own. She has to decide who's the right person, not only to campaign with her, but to help her and advise her in her governing once she becomes president. So it's a very personal decision. She'll look at all of the data that has been produced, the vetting, their backgrounds. She'll look to see who shares her values and her priorities, and also where's their chemistry. And then she'll make the right decision.
And should we not underestimate the role of chemistry here? It's really important that the president have a good chemistry with the person they're going to be working with every day, sometimes 24/7.
Day in and day out for 4 or maybe 8 years, chemistry is really important, and there has to be someone who will complement your skill set, someone whose advice and counsel you trust, often the last person in the room to speak to you before you make a decision. So it's important, but it's also important to make sure that it's the kind of person who really does share your vision for America and how you want to bring the country together and the ways in which you want to do that so that there aren't conflicts. It's okay to have a little disagreement from now and then, that's healthy, but you do want to make sure on big picture issues that your ideas are synced up.
Mm-hmm. All right, can we talk about the role of race and gender in this campaign? Because as we saw at the National Association of Black Journalists Conference in Chicago, there was Donald Trump on stage being interviewed by 3 black women and used that as an opportunity to call into question the vice president's racial identity. She is always identified as a black woman. She's also a South Asian woman. But talk to me about how you see the role of race and gender in this campaign and whether the vice president should more directly respond to the attacks that are coming from Trump.
Well, first of all, Jonathan, to your point, she has always been clear, open, and consistent about her racial identity. Second of all, nobody gets to decide for her or speak on her behalf about that racial identity. And third of all, this is like an old playbook, and it's really gotten kind of sad. This is the same thing that was tried 16 years ago with this birther nonsense. And you know what? It didn't work then. It's not going to work now. Why? Because the American people, as evidenced by the incredible energy and enthusiasm we've seen in just less than 2 weeks for her campaign, they're really not focusing on that. They want to know who's going to fight for me, who's going to improve my life, who's going to put me first, who's going to realize that this job is not about being self-centered, but by being open and inclusive and listening to the American people. And I think the fact that she has, 3 million new donors, 2/3 of which are first-time donors, hundreds and thousands of volunteers around the country, cross-section of America coming out with the enthusiasm for her candidacy. And it's a candidacy that's joyful and hopeful and sees what we have in common and not our differences. And that is what I think resonates. So I think this old playbook didn't work 16 years ago, and it's not going to work now.
Well, to that point, though, will there come a point when Vice President Harris will have to respond more directly to Donald Trump? And I ask that question because I'm thinking of I can't believe it's been 16 years, Donald Trump's birther nonsense. But at a certain point, President Obama produced again his full form birth certificate. So at what point do you think Vice President Harris might have to, be more direct about it with him?
Well, first of all, I would remind you that President Obama did not respond to that nonsense during the campaign. The only time he responded to it was when he was trying to communicate with the American people about the importance of the Affordable Care Act, and the nonsense had become noise and a distraction. That's when he decided he had to attack it head on. Now, what I would expect is, as the vice president said, if President Trump, former President Trump, has something to say to her, he should say it to her face. And she looks forward the debate that's already scheduled, that's been scheduled, and hoping that he will show up for it. So if he has something to say, he should say it directly to her. And then my guess is she will respond.
Right. That was one of my favorite moments during her rally in Atlanta. One more question for you, Valerie. Back to VP stakes. You got a favorite? Who do you think she should pick?
Well, this is the privilege of being the nominee. Whoever she picks, I will be fine with. And it is her decision and hers alone. And I have every confidence that she will pick the right person for her.
All right. We're just going to have to leave it there. Valerie Jarrett, thank you very much for coming to the Saturday show. And congratulations on being included in Forbes' Know Your Value 50 over 50 list of women who are stepping into their power in their sixth decade and beyond, a recognition that is championed by our MSNBC colleague, Mika Brzezinski. Congratulations, Valerie.
Thank you. We're like fine wine.